Welcome to week 3 of Yin Yoga. We're going to start today with a breathing practice. And this first exercise is resonant breath. So this is equal length of inhalation and exhalation. And this helps calm the nervous system and then also calming the mind and allowing the prana to flow, the chi, the life force to flow more fluidly through the body. And so that's all connected, the nervous system, the energy system. And so we can most influence the nervous system with the breathing. Um, so you can have your hands at your belly. You can sit in a chair, or maybe you want to sit up on a block if your hips are a little tight. Most important is that your spine is straight. So any of those seated postures where you can have a straight spine, either in a chair, on the floor, on a block. Okay. And then your hands can either rest at your thighs, your knees, and your lap, or you can also bring your hands to the belly. And then you can really tune into the expansion of the belly on the inhale. And that's indicating that your diaphragm is dropping down when your lungs expand so that you're not keeping all of the breath up in your chest. It's coming all the way into the lungs. Okay. So just sit for a moment and start to become aware first of your breathing. And even just being aware of the breath is going to change the rhythm of the breathing. Just that awareness alone. Or just paying attention to the breath. It's a powerful practice in itself. Okay, so now for the resonant breath, we want to deeply inhale and then exhale completely. And inhale, the belly expands. And exhale, the belly falls, navel drops towards the spine. Empty out all the way so the belly might contract as you force the air out. And keep going with your own rhythm of inhaling and exhaling. Inhale, feel everything expand. And then exhale, the entire kind of torso contracts. Take 5 more deep breaths like this. Okay, and then let that go for a moment and allow the natural breath to resume and feel any changes in the body and the mind. And then we'll take alternate nostril breathing. So 2 ways to position the hand for this, because we're going to seal off one nostril and breathe exclusively through the other nostril. So very simply, you can use your forefinger of your right hand and just seal the left nostril, and we'll breathe in and out of the right. If you want to do Vishnu Mudra, which is the more classical variation of holding the hand for this alternate nostril breathing, now take your hand out in front of you and make a fist. And now release your pinky, your ring finger, and your thumb. So you have the index and middle finger are still tucked in. Okay. And now with your palm facing you, you use your ring finger to seal the left nostril. And then when we switch sides, you're going to use the thumb of the right hand to seal the right nostril. Okay. So you can just feel that. Or if that's uncomfortable or you don't like that, you can just use the basic version of the forefinger and thumb to do the same thing. Okay, so choose your hand position. And to begin, you're going to exhale everything out both nostrils. Seal the left, and now inhale on the right. And exhale right. So we're continuing with this resonant breath. Keep inhaling and exhaling. But this time we're just going through one nostril. Okay, so deep inhale and exhale completely. And keep going this way. So your nostrils are connected with different aspects of your nervous system. So as you keep on breathing the resonant breath through the right side, I'll just let you know that it's the right side that is connected with the sympathetic nervous system. And this is your fight or flight response. Okay, this is more of a state of stress, but also action. So we need to use the state of our nervous system. But sometimes we can tend to get stuck there, especially if we have chronic pain. That can keep us kind of trapped in this fight or flight response because we're in a state of pain. So, balancing out the nervous system with breathing practices and yin yoga, and these are all going to help us to balance the nervous system and then over time free us from our chronic pain and issues. Okay, take 2 more deep breaths through the right side. And then release that hand when you've completed it. And now sit quietly and notice. Practice noticing the witness consciousness, practice the noticing of any changes, the residue of this breathing on the right side. Maybe the left nostril feels more open now. And now we'll do the other side. So come back to your mudra for holding the nostril with the right hand. So either Vishnu mudra or forefinger and thumb. And now the thumb of the right hand will seal the right nostril. Exhale completely, seal the nostril. And now inhale on the left and exhale on the left. Inhaling and exhaling. And keep going. And it's the left side that's connected with our parasympathetic nervous system. This is rest, digest, and heal aspect of the nervous system, calming. And it's only when we're in a safe place, keep breathing through the left. It's only when we're in a place of feeling safety and security that we can relax. And then it's only when we're in this aspect of our nervous system that we can heal. So it's very difficult for the body to heal itself if we're in fight or flight. So we like to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, and then we can activate our own inner healing potential and the inner wisdom of the body to heal itself. Keep inhaling and exhaling through the left side. This is also the moon channel, connected with the feminine, grounding, stillness, receptivity. One more deep breath. Okay, and then release and take a few natural breaths and a moment to notice, witness any change in the body and mind. And we'll do one more very simple breathing practice. This is called Brahmari, or the cave of the bees. And this is to help us with a few things. It helps to lengthen, excuse me, lengthen the length of the exhalation. That also calms the nervous system. And also this resonant sound that we're going to create on the exhale by humming. It's very good for the sinuses. It's good for the whole brain. It's good for the ear canals. It can help with tinnitus and hearing loss, and also helps to boost the immune system. So it's very simple, but a lot of times it's these really simple practices that are the most effective. Okay. So very simply, you're just going to take a deep inhale, and then on the exhalation, you're just going to hum for the duration of the exhalation. And we'll do a few rounds of this. So inhale. Mm, 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 mm. Mm. Okay, you can let that go. Finish your last round. And bathe in the silence. Mm. Okay. Now you can come to sit. We'll start with our first asana. So you can have a blanket or bolster or some pillows ready. So we're going to start with caterpillar today, which is just a very basic seated forward fold. So if you feel very tight hamstrings or there's any back pain, you can roll up a blanket and you can place it under your knees, or you can use a bolster under the knees. And here the feet can just go whichever way they want. So maybe they want to go out or in, but you can have the heels about hips distance apart and ground into your sitting bones. And then you can just start to drape your upper body over your legs. And just coming to this, um, edge of sensation where we're not in any kind of real extreme sensation, but we want to feel something. And so a lot of times you can start to settle into the pose with a deep breath in, find some space, make some space in the body with the breath. And then when you exhale, you can settle in more deeply. And then find a place of stillness. And then when you're in the stillness, you can become very meditative. Now, the body is not moving. And it's because the body is part of the mind. Stillness of the body can sometimes cause a bit of anxiety to come up in the mind, or even just activity, not necessarily anxiety. So it may seem as if the thoughts start to speed up when you become still. But it's just this kind of energy movement, right? So if our bodies aren't moving, then we're not expending or expressing that energy. And so then it starts to come out through the thoughts, emotions, and kind of the mental sphere, mind activity, because it doesn't have the body to distract us from the thoughts. And so you may notice that you have a desire to move or shift or adjust, or, maybe you even get an itch, but just notice all these urges to move and try to see if you can just simply notice these urges arising and then allowing them to just exist. They just exist without you doing anything to respond to them. And eventually they pass away. Even an itch arises. And if you can resist that temptation to scratch it, it will go away. And soften your face and jaw. The space between your eyebrows relax. Now take 3 deep breaths now, just a signal to your mind and body that you're about to move. So you're kind of mentally preparing. Take deep breaths to do that. And then you can start to move back up to sitting very, very slowly as soon as you're ready. Okay, and then you can move any props out of the way. And maybe you want to shake your legs out and find your hands behind you and just lean back and open your chest as a counter pose. Or you can do a reverse tabletop. And now we'll come into a supported bridge. So there's a few ways you can do this depending on how deep you want to go. So you can have a little more restorative, less intense is with the bolster beneath you. So the bolster just at your sacrum, just supporting you and coming into just a mild back bend with your knees bent and your feet on the floor. And this starts to open the front body. And maybe you even want to straighten your legs out, and that'll start to open more of the hip flexors. So this more mild version you can do on a bolster or some pillows. If you want a little more, you can use a block. And with the block, you have a few different options because there are 3 different heights to the block. Okay, so depending on how you position it, you can get your hips up higher. So you start out with your feet on the floor and your knees bent, lift your hips. So you choose which level of the block you want, how high you want it. And then making sure you place the block at your sacrum. So not at the low back, not at the curve of the back, below that, but above the tailbone. Okay, and then you're supported. You can go really high to the highest, or you can go to the middle or the lowest support. And you can try them all and see what feels right. Remembering that we don't want to do anything too severe or too intense right at the beginning. And then you can find your stillness. So again, here, if you like, you can also straighten the legs. And this adds more intensity. So if you are on a more of a high setting of the block, straightening the legs might be a bit much. So if you do want to try straightening the legs, you may need to come down to a lower setting. So find what's just right for you. And this is just about starting to open the front of the body and also being able to relax into that. So if you're not regularly practicing back bending, you may want to take a much more conservative position because it can be pretty triggering to the nervous system. And also, you don't want to feel unsafe in any way. So that goes, all the way up into the neck. If the neck doesn't feel right, you can also do a mild back bend by just lying on your belly with your forehead resting at the back of your hands. And that's a very mild back bend. But most important is setting up this container for yourself in each pose where you feel totally safe to explore this realm of sensation that you're creating in your body. And it's only when we feel safe that we can really, relax the nervous system and then set ourselves up for our body's innate capability to heal itself.
Notice any changes you feel as they happen. Okay, 3 deep breaths before we start to move. And then if your legs were straightened out, and bend your knees and bring your feet to the floor. And now we're going to press into the feet to lift the hips, just so you can slide your prop out from under you. And then very gradually lower yourself onto your back. So as a counter pose for that, let's take the feet out wide, about the width of the mat. Keep the knees bent, but you can have the feet a bit away from the seat, some space between your heels and seat. And then with your feet wide like this, put your knees knock in towards each other. And this is creating an internal rotation of your hips so that the hip points are more moving towards the front of the body. And that's making space in the low back and sacrum. And just relax like this for a few breaths. Just a nice counter pose. And then you can start to do windshield wipers and move the knees back and forth. Okay, so now roll on to one side and then use your hand and spiral up to your seat. And we'll do another seated pose. Half dragonfly. What I'd like you to do, have your props ready, blanket, pillow. And then as you lean back, you're going to lean back so it's like your tailbone scooping under. Bend your right knee in towards you. So leaning back helps you to close the knee joint. So bring it into full closure and then open the knee out to the side. And then once it's open to the side, you can sit more upright on the sitting bones. So my knee is down, but your knee may be up. You may not come all the way down to the floor. And if that's the case, you want to take something. Take a pillow, take a blanket, and provide support under that knee so that it can release down into something. And then you can know that the inner thigh of that right leg is going to also be able to release. So setting up that part of the posture, and then the left leg is straight. You're going to turn your torso to face your straight leg, the left leg. And then you can start to just slowly drape your upper body over the left leg. And so there's a lot going on in this pose as far as like the target areas that we're accessing, that we're getting sensation in. You may feel it in all or a few or one of them. So on the straight leg, we have the opening of the back of the leg, particularly the hamstring, right? So the leg is straight, the hamstring is opening. And then with the bent leg, you have this external hip rotation because the leg is opening out to the side. And then you also have maybe some opening on the inner thigh area, if that's tight for you. And then if you come into the low to mid back, you have the QL. So from the low to the mid back on the right side of your back here,
that is also starting to open. So just start to notice anywhere you feel sensation and observe from your place of stillness. 'Any tension that you feel, see if you can send the prana there just by bringing your mind to that space. You can send energy to the areas of tension and start to relax them. Three deep breaths. Here to move. And when you're ready, slowly come back up. And just take a pause at the top. And you can move your prop out of the way if you're using it. And you can just use your right hand to guide the right knee back up. And then you can extend the right leg. Maybe you need a little padding of the knee. If it feels a little tight after it being bent, shake the legs out. Okay. I'll do half dragonfly on the other side. So again, you want to lean back because when you lean back, you're giving more space to close the knee joint to come into the pose. If you stay seated upright and you try to close the knee joint, it's much harder. And the reason you want to close the knee joint before you come into the external hip rotation is it protects the knee and the hip to do so. So close the knee joint, open the left knee out to the side, and then sit up and use any props you need underneath the left knee if it's floating in space. And so what happens is you have this kinetic chain of your hip, knee, ankle. So if you're in this external rotation like you're in on the left side and the hip is tight, the knee wants to compensate for this tightness in the hip. But because the knee is just a hinging joint, it's not a ball and socket joint like the hip. The hip can move many directions. The knee can really only move open and closed. So if the knee tries to compensate for actions of the hip, you can end up hurting the knee. And that's why we want to close the knee joint, create this protection around the knee so that doesn't happen. It's not compensating for the hip flexibility. Okay. And now you can turn towards the right leg and start to fold over. Maybe feeling the back of the right hamstring. So if ever you're feeling the stretch at the end point of the muscle, so at the back of the knee for the hamstring, it would be the back of the knee or by the sitting bone. That is a sign you should back off of the stretch. You want to feel the stretch in the belly of the muscle. So in the center of the hamstring is where you want to feel the stretch. If you're feeling it at the end points, there could be some risk of tearing. And over time, people do tend to overstretch the hamstring in yoga often, and then that will happen up at the insertion point by the tailbone. And then we get the infamous yoga butt. And that's very painful. It takes a long time to heal. And it's tearing of the muscle from overstretching without the support of the strength. And soften the space between your eyebrows. Relax your jaw. Notice what's arising. And see it as a witness rather than the experience itself. It does not define you. Okay, and take a few deep breaths. And slowly ease up. Just sit. Just take a pause at the top. And then you can extend your legs, shake them out. And now have your blocks. If you have blocks, have your blocks. You can always use books or you don't have to use them. I'm going to give you two options for this. So if this first option doesn't work, I'm going to show you something else that's a bit easier. Okay. So you can come onto hands and knees, have your blocks in front of you. And now step your left foot forward. And then you're going to come into a low lunge. And if your knee is sensitive, the more you come towards the top of the knee, the less pressure it is. And you can also put a blanket or pillow or some cushioning under it. Okay, so we're going to come into this lunging position. This is called dragon pose. And this is a yin pose that has a lot of yang to it because it is, it has a bit more fire than a lot of these other yin poses. But it really can be deeply healing as we get into the hip flexor and the psoas on the right side. So find your expression. So what the blocks do is they give you a little more space. It makes it a little easier. If that feels like you want a little more, you can lower the blocks so you can come down further, or you can not use blocks at all. And again, you can always use books instead of blocks and stack them up to the height that you want. But I really recommend if there's one prop to get, I would say to get blocks. And you can get these cork blocks that are much firmer than the foam blocks if you like, or you can get both. I have both. And it's nice to have, my cork blocks are a bit thicker than my foam blocks. My foam blocks are a little bit lower. And you use them for different things. Like here, you want some more stability with the block. You want it to be harder to support you. But if you're doing some other things, you may want, if you're using it to support your leg in that half dragonfly, maybe you want something a little softer that isn't as thick.
So if this is not working, what you can do is come on your back, straighten your right leg, and bend your left knee in towards you. Hold the left knee with the left hand and let it go out to the side, and then reach your right arm straight up. Okay, and this is going to lengthen this front line. So it's getting into the same area in the hip flexor and the psoas, but it's more accessible. So if that other pose is not working for you, then you can come into this. So again, in yin, it's really not about this aesthetic. It's not about what it looks like. It's more about functionality and where you're feeling the pose, where your access points are to get into the body. And so that's why something like this can be a variation of something that looks much different, what we were just doing. We'll just wrap up this side. So keep breathing, keep your pose and stillness. Okay. So if you're wherever you are, take your 3 breaths. Now, if you're in the lunge, we're going to move directly into the next pose. So start to bend your back knee and straighten your front leg, and you can kind of flip your blocks with you. And then you're going to come to this straight leg on the left and the knee bent on the right. And this is kind of like a runner stretch. So you can flex the left foot, kind of send your hips back, and really feeling this in the hamstring on the left leg. So we already started to open that. And that's kind of a preparation for this deeper stretch. And you can make it kind of as deep as you want. You can adjust where your hands are, where your leg is, and find that sweet spot. You can feel your left hamstring. And now if you had been lying on your back for the last one, stay on your back. And what you'll do is you'll move directly into straightening the left leg. So keep move from holding the bent knee on the left to straightening the left leg. Keep the right leg straight still. Then you can hold the back of the thigh or calf. And you can keep the toes pointed. Or if you want to get more into the calf area and the back of the ankle, you can flex the foot. And then staying here. Just making it a habit of scanning the body and seeing what you feel. Often in times of stress, we unconsciously disconnect from the body, and then that energy gets kind of trapped. The emotional energy, and then it can come up later as pain. So I want to make a habit of always checking in with the physical experience. Where are you feeling the experience in your body, especially if it's something stressful or upsetting? What's the sense, felt experience of that? Where in your body do you feel anger? Where in your body do you feel sadness? So you can make a practice of checking in with sensation whenever those experiences rise for you in your day to day life. If something upsetting happens,
if you can remember to check in and notice where you're feeling it. Okay, I'll take a couple of deep breaths. And now, if you're up in your runner stretch, what we're going to do is tuck the back toes. Okay, tuck the back toes under, and then you can bring your left foot to the floor and then start to sit back. See if you can sit back on your heel. So it looks like this. Really opening this whole bottom of the foot is really good for your foot, but it can be incredibly intense for some people if they don't pay much attention to their feet. But the feet, that's where everything begins. So we really want to be mindful of our feet. Okay, so just stay here for a minute. If you were lying down, you can come back up and maybe try this. Or you can just relax and lie on your back. And do some windshield wipers. I'm not going to keep you too long in the tuck toes because it's a bold move. Let's take 3 deep breaths. And release the toes. Okay. And then let's come to tabletop. And then you can just kick the tops of the feet, get the energy released. And let's take some cat cows between sides. Okay, now we'll do the other side. So whatever variation you took on the first side, do the same thing on the other side. So if you did the lying down on your back variation, then you can go right to your back, and then you're going to hold the knee out to the right, and then the left leg will be straight, arms straight above. You're going to come into dragon pose, step forward with the left leg, oh no, step forward with the right leg, and then the left leg goes back behind you. Then you're going to find that sweet spot where you feel left hip flexor strongly. You feel that opening in a way that's tolerable. And sending the prana to any tension. And being kind to yourself too. So if you need some kind of cushioning blanket or pillow under the knee, make sure you set yourself up with that. Okay, and I'll just remind you what it looks like if you want to do the lying down variation. Just come onto the back, left leg straight, right hand holds the right knee out to the side, and the left arm extends straight up above. To get this beautiful length across the whole left side of the body. And connect with that fierceness of the dragon, that energy, the dragon. You can even close your eyes and see a dragon in your mind's eye. And all of these hip stretches are really good for the liver and gallbladder meridians. Those are actually connected with the emotion of anger. And so this kind of angry dragon is being tamed. Okay, take a couple deep breaths. And then you start to bend the back knee and straighten the front knee. And you can move the blocks a bit back towards you and flex your right foot and find the runner stretch. So the hips are sent back, the right leg is now straight, and the left knee is bent. And you start to feel it in the thigh, the back of the thigh, the hamstring, but again in the belly of the hamstring rather than the insertion points. And if you were on your back, the left leg stays straight. You bring the right knee in towards the center and then extend your leg straight, as straight as you can. And then you can decide how you want to hold your foot. A flex foot will help you get more into the calf muscle, back of the ankle. And if you relax your foot or point the toes, that's going to bring the leg a little closer to you so you can get deeper into the hamstring. And this back of the leg area, this is connected with the bladder meridian. And this has to do with the emotion of fear. So when there are obstructions in this energy channel that is running through the back of the leg and also through the bladder, that will sometimes cause excessive fear, which can show as anxiety or irrational fear of things, or maybe even fearful dreams, nightmares. And your dreams are very emotionally centered. The dream world is the emotional realm. So it's good to pay attention to the emotional content of your dreams. And that can show you where your work lies. Okay, let's take a few deep breaths before we move. And now you're going to bring the right foot to the floor and tuck the left toes under so that it's stretching the sole of the left foot. And then you can start to come to sit back on the heel as best you can. Okay, so you're stretching this whole bottom of the foot. How many acupressure points on the foot? So many. The whole body is represented in the foot. That's why reflexology is so potent of a medicine. Really helpful. I've had some pretty intense experiences with reflexology. been around for thousands of years. And we're doing similar things by creating these pressure points when we do these stretches. So it's similar. It's a similar idea. And if you're lying down, you can just relax if you don't want to try this one, because we're just staying it for about a minute. It's quite intense. And if you feel like you need to come out, you can come out. About 20 more seconds here. Just breathe. And take 3 more deep breaths. Okay, now I'll come up to our tabletop. Let's move for cat cow, just nice and slow. And then we're going to come to lie down on our backs. And just finishing with spinal twists. So I'll give you a couple options. So if you want to try today, which in this differently in previous weeks, you can cross right knee over left, and then you can let the knees drop to the left. And this provides a bit of a deeper stretch to the hip, a little bit of a deeper twist. And then the right arm can extend straight out from the shoulder joint. And maybe if your neck feels really totally okay, then you can turn your head to the right. But if there's any neck tension at all, keep your head neutral. And if that feels like too much to cross the legs, keep the legs stacked and just let the knees drop to the left. Practice your deeper breathing in the spinal twist to help move the spinal fluid by the filling of the lungs. And just notice when you take a really deep, full breath in the spinal twist, just how that feels. Maybe you even need to yawn after feeling the settling of the energy, and that's good. It doesn't even mean that you're tired. It's just the energy balancing itself out. So take that as a sign that you're effectively practicing if you're yawning. And just feel gravity pulling you down, as if there's a surrender to gravity. And just melting into the floor. And we'll take 3 deep breaths. And then you can slowly bring the knees back to center. You can uncross the legs if they will cross. And then I like to straighten my legs between sides. So just lie flat and then
Notice right hip, left hip, and how they feel different after you've done the one side. I really feel a big difference. It's almost like my right hip is just sinking down lower than my left. And I think I can even feel it that the left hip is higher than the right hip. Okay, so let's see if we can even that out. So feet to the floor again. And then if you want to do the cross-leg version, left knee crosses on top of right knee. And then both knees go to the right, or keep the knees simply stacked and take that variation. And then the left arm extends straight out from the shoulder joint. And then if your head and neck feel good, you can turn your head to the left or keep the head neutral. And just release any resistance in the body and the mind. Just feel the spaciousness between each cell. Between each atom. We are made up of mostly space. So connect with that element of space. And keep reassuring yourself of your own safety, that you are in this container as if it were an egg of protection around you, this energetic, protective egg, and so that it's perfectly safe for you to let go. Let go completely into gravity. And take 3 deep breaths here. And when you're ready, bring your knees back to center. And if your legs were crossed, you can uncross them. And then let's extend our legs straight now and check in and notice if you feel more of a sense of balance between the sides, the hips. And you can stay here and come right into Shavasana, or if there are any other poses you'd like to take, if you want to do something symmetrical, it's nice to do knees to chest, or you can take happy baby,
Something like this, or even just lift the legs up straight. You can lift the arms up straight too. That's very restorative. And then come into your Shavasana if you're not already. And deeply, deeply relax and rest your body and mind. Always be sure to take a few minutes of rest at the end of practice as a way to integrate what you've done. A way of showing gratitude for your body and for your precious human birth. And just rest. And feel the energy flow. Maybe now you can feel this subtle sensation of the energy movement through the channels of the body, or just this very subtle vibration throughout the whole body. And just feel that. Feel that. And you can stay here resting. Or take some deep breaths. If you'd like to come out of Shavasana, but you can stay in Shavasana as long as you like. The longer, the better. And if you're coming up, you can start to breathe deeply. And now notice which nostril is more dominant, because one side is more dominant than the other periodically throughout the day. It usually changes about every 90 minutes. Take a few deep breaths and notice if one side is more dominant. And whichever side is the stronger airflow, I want you to roll onto that side. So if the left side's more open, roll onto your left side. The right side has a stronger airflow, roll onto the right. And use your arm as a pillow. So you're bending your elbow and placing your head at your upper arm. So the pressure of the head on the arm is going to help you to open the top nostril. So pause here with your head pressing on your arm and breathe. And notice if the more blocked nostril starts to open. And once you feel that, you can start to come up
If you don't feel it, then just come up whenever you're ready. And then you can pause in your seat, just feeling your presence and any changes of your state of mind and feelings in your body from when you began, honoring that with gratitude for the experience and gratitude for yourself for coming to practice today, gratitude for your space to practice in, your time. And then you can bring your hands to heart center. And we'll do a short Shanti Pataha to close today. You can join me for Om at the beginning, Om Shanti 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 at the end. Take a deep inhale. Om. Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you for your practice today. Namaste.